Hey y'all, so we sat down this evening and had our own turkey the day after Thanksgiving since we went everywhere and ate with other people, and I noticed something from the leftovers. See these 3 bones, they come out of the wing, and if y'all have been following me, you know I hunt with wing bone turkey calls that I've been making on my own. So this is obviously a domestic turkey, but we're gonna see if I can't make a call out of this Thanksgiving turkey. I figured make a cool story if nothing else. I've got some water over here boiling with dish soap and borax in it. I'm just going to drop them in there and I'll get back with y'all in about 15 minutes when I'll try to clean them up. It's been enough time. Usually I take longer with a wild turkey to get all the fat and everything rendered down, but we're going to see if I did it long enough. I'm going to clean these bones up. All this fat and stuff on the end, you ain't got to worry about it so much on these smaller bones, but now when you get to the big one, whatever don't come off by hand, take your knife and just scrape it off. The meat comes off this fresh out of the water. You'll clean them up, them looking like something. Like I said, on the end it don't make as much difference because you don't use the ends once you cut it off. Alright, so I've got them cleaned up pretty well. I noticed that they are a lot softer than the wild turkey bones. I don't know if that's because they were cooked once before or if it's just because it's a domestic bird. Now I'm using a Sawzall. It's awful hard on these bones. It's real easy to mess up if you go too fast. So I'm going to start out with a middle-sized bone right here. You want to cut it close to the ends. You can always make it shorter to get a different tone later on down the road. So I'm going to cut it pretty long right now. And we're going to see. But now you got to be real careful if you use a Sawzall to cut it, because it will shatter the bone if you ain't careful. There's one side. There's both sides. Now once you do that, you see all that marrow in there? Take it over here to the sink and you just blow all that stuff out. This big end right here, that's going to be the end of your call, the trumpet side. So you're going to want to cut it crossways at the biggest point, whichever way that'll end up being. So like right through here. Then you want to cut it also at the smallest point. See where it tapers down right about here. Is where I'm going to cut the second one. There we go. You see it has a whole lot more marrow in the end. I'm going to take these pieces over here to my pot of water that is now boiling, and that will line up to be our turkey call. That's what our turkey call look like. Okay, so I finally got these smaller bones cleaned out pretty well. Now this bigger bone, it takes a little bit more time. You got to get in there with a screwdriver, and it's actually got little cross braces is what I call them. Get in there with a screwdriver and you got to pick every one of those out. It just makes a cleaner call. As long as air can go through it, it'll make a sound, but you want to clean that up, you're going to be showing it off to people more or less. So now I finally got all the marrow cleaned out of these bones here, and I've got them laid out where I think they will go once I get the call put together. Now if you'll notice on this small bone, you've got a rounded end and a flatter end. The flatter end is going to be your mouthpiece. So the only stipulation to putting this call together is your mouthpiece has to be flat with the top of the call. So I've kind of messed around with it, and I think this is how the call is going to go. Now they will not go together just yet without some fitting. So I've got to sand the bone away. You don't want to force anything because the bone will crack if you are not careful. Alright, so I've got my caul pieced together like I want it to be. Now we gotta glue the joints together. And here. So if you look, I got it fitted pretty good where there's not any holes showing. So you'll take it apart a piece at a time. I like to start at the back. And you will take the end that you are sticking in there. Now I've let this epoxy kind of sit over here and set for a little bit to get it tacky. Take your epoxy and just fill in all the holes. Make sure it has a good seat. Now it don't have to be pretty because I always clean them up at the end. Take this in, remember which one's your flat end. It has been about 12 hours since I glued this up last night. Now everything I'm going to do from here on out is purely for aesthetics. You do not have to do any of this to have a functional caul. This caul is completely functional right now as it sits, but I like to make them prettier. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some 320 grit sandpaper. I'm going to sand everything down, make it smooth. And I even got some finer grit over there if I need it. But after that, I'm going to use thread. I'm going to put thread around these joints to kind of clean them up and smooth them out. And I think that looks a whole lot better than just leaving this bone. So now the next step is to take some all-purpose thread. I like using black, but I guess any color would work. You could probably put blue on there, but you want to take it, you want to get it started around a joint. Now you can take it and tie a knot in it. It's just the knots don't really hold, so if you take it and wrap it around it a time or two, and then on top of that you want to go ahead and put a little super glue so it'll hold it, so you can start then wrapping it. Now if you don't get super glue all over you ain't doing something right. Okay, it started to hold. You just take it and you wrap it. You see, I just smoothened out the joint on this caul in between the two pieces. And now to finish it off, you're going to take your super glue and hold that tight and take your super glue and just dot it right where that ends. And now, like I said, I'm going to get this all over me, but you smoothen it out and wait for it to harden. Then once it does, you can take your scissors and just cut it. You take your super glue again, just put it all over this joint so nothing comes undone. Alright, see how shiny it is now? We're going to wait for that to dry, then I'm going to start on this back end. Finally got it finished up. Got my initials and the date on it and everything. We're going to do a little sound test. Don't sound too bad, especially coming from a Thanksgiving turkey.